guys, welcome back to my channel. Thanks so much for clicking on this video. My name's Olivia. If you're new here and you haven't yet joined the family, please click the subscribe button down below and join me in the comments. Say hi, I'd love to hear from you. Today's video is going to be a foundation matches video and actually came as a request from you guys. I put up a poll on my Insta stories asking you whether you'd like to see a foundation match video or a nude lips video how-to, and most of you voted for the foundation tutorial, so that's why I'm filming this vid. So I'm going to do a run through of all the basics that you need to know even before you buy foundation, and then I'm going to do a run through of all the foundations that I have and swatches and everything, so you're going to get the whole lot, so don't worry, all of it's coming up. I'll explain undertones, I'll explain finishes, and I'll tell you why I like the foundations that I have and things to watch out for. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, keep watching this video. Before I go, of course, I can't leave you without leaving you with all my socials, so make sure that you follow me on Snapchat, Instagram and Twitter. I'm Olivia Akumu across all three channels. I have a blog, so make sure you go check that out, www.oliviaakumu.com, and of course, like and subscribe. So see you in my next video, guys. Bye. Okay, so before I start talking about all the different foundations that I have and all the different things about that, I thought that we would just start with some of the basics, which might seem really obvious to some people who are very experienced or quite experienced with makeup, but might be quite puzzling to you. So the first thing to understand about skin is that we have a skin tone and we have an undertone. The skin tone is immediately what you see when you look at somebody. So that's my melanin skin, I'm brown, I'm dark. Also in skin terms, people will talk about fair, medium, dark, deep, you know, that kind of variation. That's your skin tone. Your skin tone can change, of course, depending on whether you've been out in the sun, so you might get a little bit darker, or whether you come back away from the sun and then you lose a tan, and so your skin tone can change depending on a number of different factors. So that's skin tone. So now moving on to undertone. Undertone is not obvious when you first look at somebody. So you can see what kind of skin tone they have, but you can't tell whether they have a particular undertone. Undertone is determined by a pigment that kind of underlies the skin tone. And that can mean then that you end up looking even though you're the same color as somebody, i.e. the same skin tone as somebody, that you do actually look slightly different. Your undertone doesn't change. So once you're born with your undertone, you're stuck with it. Undertone is important for foundation because it can determine whether you look right or wrong in makeup. You might have picked the right colour, i.e. the right depth of colour for your skin, but if you haven't got the right undertone, it's still going to look a little bit off. So understanding undertone is really key for foundation matching. So there are three types of undertones to watch out for. There's warm, cool and neutral. Warm colours are typically colours like yellows and oranges, richer colours. Cool colours will be colours like pinks and blues. And then neutral colours are kind of a mix of in between. It might even include a little bit of a green or olive, and maybe a purpley kind of undertone. So you might be sitting there and thinking, so what then is my undertone? How do I figure that out? And there are a couple of different ways that you can figure out what your undertone is. So there are a few different tests that I'm gonna let you know about, and you can try them out. The best thing for you to do is not to do it under lights like I'm doing, but do it in natural light so you can see what you look like without any kind of distortion of colour of light. So the first thing you can do is to look at the veins on your wrist. The veins on your wrist should be able to tell you, if you look at them, which undertone you are. So if they appear green, then that might mean that you are a warm undertone. If they appear blue, that will mean that you are a cool undertone. And if you can't really tell whether it's green or blue, then it's most likely that you are a neutral undertone. Another way that you can do this is to pick up some gold and silver, something gold and something silver, and put it up against your skin. So I'm going to take out these earrings for this bit so that we don't get confused. Is that gold enough? So I've got two makeup brushes, one with a silver ferrule and one with a gold ferrule. So you just pick up whatever you have. It could be jewellery, it could just be something that you have lying around the house that's silver and gold. And then in natural light, you want to put them up against your skin. And what you're trying to look for is which colour makes your skin look more healthy, more rich, and makes it pop. If silver makes you pop, then that means that you have a more cool undertone. If gold makes you pop, then it's more likely that you have a golden, warm undertone. If you're somewhere in between and you can't determine it, or maybe both colours look good on you, then you could be a neutral. Okay, so the other way to tell which undertone you have is to grab a piece of white paper and then put it up against your skin. And then try and compare the white paper to your skin. Would you describe your skin as having more yellow in it than the white paper? Or having more pink in it than the white paper? Whichever colour that you see that's kind of standing out, then that's probably leaning towards your undertone. And then the last thing that you could do is to grab 2 eyeshadows or 2 blushes, one in orange and one in pink, or if you don't have a pink, then a blue will also do. I'm going to do this right here for you, so grab a bit of that orange and put it onto one side of my face. And then grab the pink and put it onto the other side of my face. So you'll remember we said pink is the cool colour and orange is the warmer colour. I'm packing on quite a lot just so that it shows up on camera. And then you want to close your eyes and count to 10. And when you open your eyes, look straight in the mirror and see which colour stands out. So I'm going to do it right here, my mirror's here. Okay, do it there so that you can see as well. For me, the colour that stood out first when I opened my eyes was the pink. So that means that that is a contrasting colour because your eyes will naturally draw itself to the colour that stands out. The orange is kind of blended into my skin, which shows that I'm more of a warmer tone than I am a cool tone. So whichever colour your eye is drawn to, that's the contrasting colour. So if your eye has been drawn to the pink, then you are a warm. And if your eye has been drawn to the orange and that's what's standing out, then you are a cool. Okay, the last final thing I have to explain to you about undertones is that we're all different colours and all different tones. So somebody who you might have 3 people who are all identified as warm tones, but they all have varying shades of that warmth in them. So some lean more towards the lighter spectrum on the warm, which is more yellow, and some have a little bit more orange in them. So I want to demonstrate that now for the cool spectrum, just because that's what I've got here. I've got this sleek blush trio, which has got 3 shades of pink in it. These are all cool tones, so there's no debate about that, they're all cool tones. But they all have varying shades of coolness in them. And that's kind of the way that the undertones work for some of us. So some of us will have more of a golden tone or a cooler tone in us than our friend who may be the same undertone, but may have more or less of an undertone in them as well. So just to explain that we all have varying shades of undertone to our skin. Okay, so that's all about the undertones, and now I'm going to go right into all the different foundations I have and talk you through them. And so I'm starting off with the MAC Studio Fix Fluid. It looks like this. I am in the shade NW48. This foundation is OG. I have used it for years. And I stopped using it for a while just when I was trying to start experimenting with lots of other different foundations. But I came back to it a few months ago and I was just like, why did I stop using this foundation? It is so good. So I am NW48 in this shade. I have been lighter shades before, but this seems to be the one that's kind of closest to my skin tone. So the formula of this dries down to a matte finish, a comfortable matte, not too drying matte. And it gives you a medium to full coverage, so you can build on this once you've got it on your face to give you more coverage if you want it. I'm going to show you what this looks like on my skin, although it might probably be distorted by the light, but trust me when I tell you that it is a fairly good match for me, and this bottle is almost finished. Just swipe that onto my skin right there. it should have disappeared into my skin quite well. Just bear in mind that when I am matching my foundation, I match it to my chest and not my face. So I've blended it in right there. As with almost all foundations, it will oxidize very slightly when you put it on, but you can fix that with the rest of the products that you put on your face. So it's not sold with a pump. It comes like this, but if you do want a pump, MAC do sell pumps and you can just screw that on and put it on. I haven't got a pump on this, and you get 30 mils of product with that. The next foundation which I have is the L'Oreal Infallible 24-Hour Matte Foundation. You will have seen this called Pro Matte probably. Depending on where L'Oreal sell this in the world, they change the name of the product and actually the packaging of the product. So I bought this in South Africa, so it was called the Infallible 24-Hour Matte. But if you buy this in the States, it's called the Infallible Pro Matte. So in the Infallible 24-Hour Matte, I am the shade 34 Mahogany, and this corresponds to shade 112 Cocoa in the Pro Matte. It's exactly the same product, just that L'Oreal choose to call it a different thing and give it a slightly different packaging in different parts of the world. So this dries down to a very super matte formula, which is why I love it, because I have really oily skin. And it gives me super full coverage, which I also like. It can cover up all the blemishes on my face. It's in a squeezy bottle, which when I first bought it, I was thrilled about this squeezy bottle concept. But if you travel with this on a plane, somehow the pressure in the cabin does something to it. And when you open it, like literally this will pour everywhere. So I thought I loved it at the time, but it's probably not the best to travel with. If you are traveling with it, make sure you knock back the product before you open it, which is not what I did, and then it just ended up everywhere. It dries fast, so you do have to work quickly with it, and you get 35 ml of product in this tube. I'm going to show you what that looks like on my skin. I'm going to put it on this side. So this one is a little bit more golden than the MAC Studio Finish. Sticking to the matte theme, the next one is the Maybelline Fit Me Matte and Poreless Foundation. So this is part of the Fit Me line. There are a couple of different lines within the Fit Me range. So you have just the original Fit Me, you have the matte and poreless, and there is also the Dewy. I'm an oily girl, so of course I'm with the matte and poreless one. I am in the shade 360 Mocha. Maybelline brought out a number of shades, and Mocha was the darkest one at the time, but they have now expanded that range, and there are lots of different undertones and shades darker than this one, so they are available. I would describe this as a medium buildable formula, but it dries very matte, and honestly it feels like there's nothing on your skin when you first put it on. It has no pump, so you do have to decant it onto the back of your hand if you want to use it. I'm just going to put that on this side. The reason I really like this foundation is, one, that it's matte and it stays matte for almost the whole day, but two, that it has more of a neutral undertone. So the NW48 had a very warm undertone. The L'Oreal one had a bit more of a golden undertone, and this one is very neutral. And while it might look a little bit bright where I've applied it there, it does oxidize slightly as it dries down. So it dries down to match my skin tone actually quite well. It's really comfortable. Honestly, feels like there's nothing on my face right now, and it's dried down already. How's it? So you get 30 ml of product in that. I really like this foundation, and I think I would continue repurchasing that one. Okay, when I discovered this next foundation, honestly, I was completely blown away. I hadn't experienced a foundation that could do this for my skin. I don't know. So this one is honestly one of my top foundations to use. And this one is the Lancome Teint Idole Ultra Foundation. I bought this actually here in Nairobi when Lancome launched at the, what's it called, Garden City Mall. So that's where you can pick this up. I don't know whether they've expanded this now. Maybe you can get it in other Linton stores now, but I picked it up from the Lintons in Garden City. I picked this up when I was tan. I was dark, so considerably darker than I am now. I think I'd been up country, and then I'd also gone to coast, so I was super dark when I picked this up. And so this one is in the shade 14 Brownie. A word of caution about Lancome and the naming of their foundations. So they do like, which one is it? Like L'Oreal do, and they name their foundations differently in different parts of the world. So this one is 14 Brownie. I think they sell this in the UK and in a couple of other different countries. But in the States, they have a completely different numbering system, like in the 500s, like 500 and something for the darker colours. And then also, annoyingly, they don't provide a chart anywhere that shows you what the corresponding shades are. So I don't know, unfortunately, what this shade is in another corresponding chart, because I've looked online and I honestly can't find what it's called. I understand now that the Lancome store here has the American shade references, so sorry, can't really help you with matching this shade up. But this one is 14 Brownie, and it is actually too dark for me right now, but I'm going to just swipe it on. It dries down to a kind of demi matte, velvety matte finish, and it is definitely full coverage. I was going to swipe that on. Bear in mind that this will oxidize, and you can see closest to the darker perimeter edge of my face, but when you compare it to the lighter part of my face, it is definitely too dark. And this is why I always advocate thinking about where you're going to match your foundation to, because if I was to match it to my neck, yes, my face and my neck would match, but then my chest would look really light. So I always match my face to my chest, and then I bronze to try and blend in. So I think when the woman was swatching this for me, I remember she put it on my jawline, but that's not always the thing to do. So this foundation, yeah, demi matte, comes with a pump, really handy. Love the packaging of this. I mean, you can tell it feels luxe, which is why I love it. And you also get 30 ml of product in that. So I'd recommend going in and testing this foundation out if you're looking for something new and more high-end. The next foundation that I'm going to talk about also, I had some problems with the colour matching. This is why don't stay in store when you think you've got your foundation. Step out of store. So this is the L'Oreal True Match Super Blendable Foundation. Again, this has different packaging from the US packaging. I got this when I was in England, and I'm not, but this is in the shade NRNC Deep Cool. I don't know honestly what I was doing when I was picking this foundation out. It's way too red for me, and also oxidizes really, really red. Too warm actually for my skin tone. It looks alright when it's going on under the light, but I'm looking in my mirror right now and I can tell you that that's much too much red in that foundation for me. It's not picking up the golden bits that are in the middle of my face. But that being said, if I had the right colour, I really like how this foundation works. I wear it when I've got a little bit more of a tan and my skin has got a little bit more depth to it, and I can get away with trying to play around with it. It is, I was going to say medium to full, but I'd actually just say it's a full coverage foundation. It dries down to a matte finish and fantastic. Again, it has a pump, so you can pump out just what you need. I really like the formula of this. It has little tiny gold flecks in the tube. You won't be able to see it from there, but I can tell you that it does, which gives your skin a beautiful kind of iridescence without looking like you've got chunks of glitter in there. So I really like that, really clever. I don't know whether that is in the regular L'Oreal True Match, the one in the small bottle, the American one, because I haven't tried that. But I would recommend this if you can get the right shade. And this is, 30 ml as well. Okay, so moving away from the matte finishes, those were all my kind of matte foundations in that segment. Moving on to ones that have a more satin finish. The first one I want to talk about is the Yves Rocher Flawless Skin Foundation. I am in the shade 700 and I picked this up from the Yves Rocher store in Westgate. I was really pleasantly surprised because I saw this new Yves Rocher kind of shop open, and I didn't go in for a couple of months because I was just kind of hesitant. Because I thought that it was a very European brand catering to very light skin tones, and I was like, they're not going to have a foundation that matches me. But I did eventually go in and I found that they did have foundations that match up. And the girl that I spoke to in the Village Market store, which is the store that I first went into before I bought this at Westgate, she was really helpful in having me pick the right line of foundation. So this one is the Flawless Skin Foundation, and there's another one which I don't know the name of, but she said that one doesn't work well with darker skin tones, so she encouraged me to get this one. So I'm in the shade 700, and I think there is a shade or two, definitely one, 800, darker than I am. The finish to this foundation is full coverage, and it dries down to a kind of satin finish. I'll show you what that looks like on this side. So this definitely does have more orange in it than my skin. You can see it on there. So when I am applying this foundation, I typically will sheer it out because it is full coverage. I will sheer it out, and then I will go in with a really bright golden concealer to highlight my face so that I don't look too orange. So there are ways to play around with your foundation. If you feel that it is leaning a bit too orange, you can go in with a brighter concealer, and brighter I mean more yellow, so that you can balance out the orange that's in there. And then I will sheer that out with a beauty blender. Once it's dried down, it does actually look not as stark as this, so once it dried down, it's not as bad. But you get 30 ml again of product in this, and it comes with a pump. It doesn't come with a lid on the pump, but it's like one of those twisty ones. If you twist it one way, then you won't be able to press it. Let me just show you. So I've twisted it and nothing's coming out. And the next foundation that I'm going to talk about, I bought on a complete whim. When I was in Chandarana in Yaya, I bought these quite a while back, so I don't know whether they're still in there. I don't pop into Yaya that often. But these are the Jordana 2-in-1 concealer and foundations that look like this. I picked it up in 3 shades because I didn't quite know exactly which shade to pick up, but I picked up this lighter shade, which is 09 Caramel, to highlight with. So I knew I wanted a highlight, so that's why I picked up that one. And then for my actual skin tone, I didn't know whether I would be this colour or this colour. So there are 211 Golden Toffee and 12 Mahogany. And you can't always tell by looking at the tube whether it will come out right. So I picked them both up, and then I decided I would mix them or do whatever I needed to do to make it work. So there are 2-in-1 concealer and foundation, which means that they are high coverage. So you can use them as spot concealers or you can use them as foundations, and I use them actually as both. And I sometimes mix them in with other foundations if I have one that's too red and I want to bring up the golden tones in it. I just drop a little bit of this golden caramel in there. If it's a little bit too light and I want it to be a bit deeper, then I'll drop in a little bit of mahogany in there. So for my foundation shade, I actually use a mix of Golden Toffee and Mahogany together. So this one is Golden Toffee. So you can see that one is very golden and picks up the very lightest parts of the middle of my face. And then we've got Mahogany. Oh, I've not cleaned off that brush. Which has more orange tones in it, just next to it there. They've actually mixed on the brush, so it is a little bit deeper than, I should have cleaned that brush up. And it is actually a little bit deeper than that when you apply it, very slightly deeper though. So that's those two. And I am cleaning off my brush now, so that I can show you what Golden Caramel looks like, which I use, as I said, either as a really bright highlight or to mix in. Okay, so my camera died. My battery died for a minute there, so I had to wait for it to charge up. I need a backup battery. But you can see the 3 shades right here, and you can see that super bright one. Right on the end there is the Golden Caramel, and the other 2 have dried down now, so that is, what's that? Golden Toffee and Mahogany there. So I mixed the last 2 to get the right shade. This one in the middle is quite neutral. Even though it's called golden, it does appear quite neutral on my skin. As well does, there's a little bit of warmth to the Mahogany, but this one is super, super golden. So those are these 3. They don't come in a milliliter form, so it's in grams, so I have no idea what that is in milliliters. Somebody can tell me in the comments. 30 grams for each one of these. I don't know whether they're still sold in Chandarana, so you can go check that out. But they are that squeezy bottle, so again, make sure you do that thing that I was talking about and bang it down if you're traveling with it, otherwise you'll get foundation everywhere. The next foundations that I have to talk about are now moving completely away from that middle range and are going into the Satin Dewy range, which I know is usually a freak word for those of us who have oily skin, but I really wanted to try these foundations out, so I bought them anyway, and I think I figured out a way to make them work. So these are the LA Girl Pro Coverage HD Long Wear Illuminating Foundation, really long name. I have them in 3 shades actually. The other one is the white that you'll have seen in my other videos, but these two, one is in the shade Coffee, which is the slightly lighter one, and one is in the shade Rich Cocoa, which has a little bit more warmth to it. So as I said, they have a satin dewy finish, and so I really do make sure that I do all of my steps to maximize my mattified skin underneath. So I will go in with a primer, I will powder my skin before I use this foundation, I'll go in with the foundation, I'll powder it again, and then I'll use a setting spray to make sure that I lock everything in, just so that the dewy effect will still show, but it won't be oil slick. Because after a while, if you wear this without having done the steps, honestly, you'll just be a glistening mess, and you really don't want that. But the foundations are really pretty and really, really nice on the skin, which is why I still continue to use them, although I kind of measure my skin and see how it's been doing, whether it's been really oily at a certain point in time or whether it's actually a little bit more towards normal where it can afford to wear these foundations. So I'd say that you get a medium to full finish with both of these. Fantastic, again, they both come with a pump and it's plastic casing for both of them. So I'm just going to swatch these on my face for you. Clean off the brush. I learned the mistake from last time. So start off with the lighter one. The lighter one is in the shade Coffee, and the darker one is in the shade Rich Cocoa. So this one is Coffee. You can see that is super golden, really pretty. And then clean off my brush again. The next one is Rich Cocoa, which has a little bit more warmth in it. Right, I can already tell from putting these on that these probably won't perform well in flash photography. I can probably tell you that they won't photograph well. I haven't tested it, but in flash photography, I bet these would give you flashback. I'm getting some hint, very light, pale hint of potential ashiness coming through there. But I haven't worn these on a night out, so I can't tell you about that. I'll just probably make sure that you bronze really well when using these. So they're drying down slightly, and you do get, I'd say medium to full, but leaning more towards the full kind of coverage, because they have covered up the blemishes that I have even underneath both of those shades on this cheek. So that's what they look like. And you get 28 milliliters of that product in each bottle. So just 2 ml less, but they're really affordable. But I'd say the finish of these are actually really pretty when you have them on your full face, so I would definitely recommend trying them out if you haven't already. Then the final foundations I have to show you are from Black Opal, and they are completely different from everything else because everything I've shown you so far has been liquid foundations. What I'm going to show you right now are stick foundations. So these are the True Colour Foundation sticks from Black Opal. I have them in 2 shades, one shade Carob, just take the lids off, and another shade Black Walnut. So that's the 2 of them right there, and I'm going to swipe them onto my face. So that's Carob, and that's Black Walnut right next to it. Carob has a beautiful warmth to it, which looks very healthy on the skin, makes your skin look really perked up and healthy. Black Walnut is a lot darker and very neutral, almost olive actually. I can see a bit of green coming through there. I hope you can see it too. These are both super full coverage. I've just done one swipe on each of my face and you can see already how high coverage they are. If you want to sheer this out, put a few swipes on your face, not many, and then go in with your buffing brush and then your sponge afterwards to see if you can sheer it out a little bit more. But they are really more full coverage foundations. You can even use them, choose to use them as a concealer to cover up blemishes. So this is what they look like on the skin. They feel really good on the skin when you wear them, but after a few hours you will start to feel it breaking up, especially if you have oily skin, I feel, because your oils are coming through and then you've got a cream product which might cause them to kind of slide around a little bit. So just be cautious of that. You will have to blot during the day, but they're really easy to put on. So it's just a few swipes and then buffing with the buffing brush, especially when I'm having a lazy day. This is my go-to. But that's what they look like on the skin. I'd probably say that they have a satin finish. They don't really dry down matte unless you set them with a powder. And then again, these also don't have a milliliters, because they're a solid product, so they're 14.2 grams. I have no idea what that is, and I haven't gone through it yet. That's what's left of carob, but I'd probably say it was about another third on top of that, maybe that big when I first got it. Yeah, so those are all my foundations. I hope that helped. I will insert a clip just now showing you all of them swatched on my arm so you can see them next to each other. But I'm hoping that going through them and swatching them on my skin helped you to see also things like undertones and how I'm matching it to the lightest part of my face and not the darkest part of my face, which is my jaw. I have tried to do the whole darkest part of your face, but when I apply it to my face just looks lost. Even when I go in with highlight and concealer, it just looks a little bit messy, so I prefer to match it up with the lightest part of my face and then bronze the rest of my face and the edges and contour to help it all blend in. Okay, so I've got all those different foundations lined up here on my arm, and I'm going to take you through them. I did these last three, I'd forgotten about them. Ooh. I'd forgotten about these last three, so that's why they're in squeezed in just before you get to my elbow crack. I'll take you through those first. So this one right on the end is, these three are all the Jordana shades. And the first one there is the darkest shade in number 12, Mahogany. That's the one that I use on the perimeter of my face. Next to it is the super light highlight shade number 9, Golden Caramel. It's looking super pale with the lights on, but it's not that dark bright in real life. And then next to it is the shade number 11, Golden Toffee, which is what I mix with Mahogany to get my perfect skin tone shade. And now into the others. So this first one here is MAC NW48, and you can see it's still drying down on the edges there. Looks quite orange when it's just been swatched, but it dries down to a beautiful colour. Next to that is L'Oreal's Infallible Pro Matte or Infallible 24-Hour Matte. Mine is the 24-Hour Matte, so that's the shade 34 Mahogany, although that's the same as 112 in the Pro Matte line. Next to that is the Maybelline Matte and Poreless from the Fit Me line foundation. Next to that is the Maybelline Fit Me Matte and Poreless foundation in the shade 360. Right next to that is the Lancome Tinted Ultra 24-Hour Matte in that shade 14 Brownie. You can see just how dark that is when that dries down. After that is the Yves Rocher in the shade 700. Looks like that. And then these two are both LA Girl Pro HD Illuminating Foundation. So this is in the shade Coffee, the slightly lighter, paler one. And you can see there, Rich Cocoa has a little bit more red to it. So that's the two from LA Girl. After that, you can see the L'Oreal True Match, and you can see what I mean by it having a lot more richness to it, a little bit too rich than my face. Although my arm isn't a perfect match for my face, you can still see just quite how warm that is. And then these two are the Black Opal Foundation Sticks. So this is in the shade Carob, and that's in the shade Walnut. You can see Walnut, and that actually looks very neutral, not too red, not too cool toned. And you can see just how much red is in that Carob shade. So that's the entire foundation line. All swatched on my arm there for you. Yeah, so I hope that was really useful for you. Any questions that you feel that I haven't answered or things that were unclear, please make sure to drop me a comment down below and I can explain or expound a little bit further. This was a really fun video for me to do because I do get a lot of questions about foundation matches in my DMs or even when I'm out and about meeting people. So I'm hoping that this was helpful for you. So if you have made it this far and you did find it useful, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, and I don't know why you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe to my channel. Drop me a comment either in the comments down below, or you can also catch me on my social media. I'll make sure to leave my details in the description bar and somewhere on screen again. I would love to hear from you. Otherwise, I'll see you in my next video.